The Troops, illustrated by Melanie Crooks and read and written by Apollo Stark. Florence the ladybird sat on a leaf and watched Colonel Pincer inspect his troops. "Stand to attention, Private," the beetle grunted. "I will not have sloppiness on parade." Private Spider straightened his spindly legs and saluted. The beetle glared at Soldier Snail. "Take that leaf out of your mouth. When did you last wash your shell? Wash it at once. When I commanded the Woodlouse Armoured Division, I never had these problems." A fat grey cloud crawled across the sky, and spit spots of rain began to fall. Florence hid under her leaf to avoid getting wet. The rain grew heavier. Big droplets fell around the beetle and his troops, exploding like bombs as they hit the ground. Soldier Snail retreated into his shell as Colonel Pincer yelled out, "It's an air raid! Everyone head for cover!" Dashing to the safety of their hollow log barracks, Colonel Pincer turned to see Private Spider trying to entice the snail from his shell. "You can't hide in there," the spider said as a big droplet hit the snail's shell and soaked him. "I was told to clean my shell, so I'm going to let the rain do it. Go away, leave me alone," the snail stubbornly replied. Colonel Pincer shouted from the hollow log, "Troops, what are you playing at? Come here right now." With a big sigh, Private Spider had to leave his friend behind. Rain thumped heavily on the leaf Florence sheltered under and trickled down the bush to make a little stream. As the rain got heavier, other little streams formed and met to create a river. The river bubbled over the ground, rushing straight towards Soldier Snail. The ladybird saw what was happening and called out, "Watch out, Soldier, you're in danger!" Thinking she wanted to trick him into going back to Hollow Log Barracks, the snail refused to budge. Suddenly, the strong river washed around him, lifting him off of the ground. "Help!" the snail cried helplessly as the flood carried him away. Leaving the cover of her leaf, Florence bravely dodged the falling raindrops to fly to the hollow log and report what she'd seen. "Soldier Snail is in trouble, Colonel," she puffed. "A river has carried him off." "What shall we do, sir?" asked the spider. The beetle paced up and down. "Climb up in your web, Private. See if you can spot our missing soldier." Running out into the cold, sploshing rain, the spider clambered up the largest bush in the garden, at the top of which he had built his biggest, strongest web. As the river of rain carried Soldier Snail along, he grabbed hold of a floating twig and used it to keep his head above water. A strong wave twisted him round and round like a spinning top, and he narrowly avoided cracking his shell on a big rock as the speeding river gushed into a deep boot print left by a gardener. Tumbling over the imprint's edge, Soldier Snail landed with a huge splash in Bootprint Lake. Just then, the rain decided to stop. Florence buzzed in the air, for it was too dangerous for her to land on Private Spider's sticky web. "Can you see him?" she asked. "I think so. It looks like the river dropped him in Bootprint Lake," the spider replied. "Oh dear," the nurse said. "I'll go and tell the Colonel at once." Colonel Pincer listened, then called out, "Stop dangling, Private. Come here. We have a soldier to rescue." As quick as an apple dropping from a tree, the spider lowered himself down on a thin silvery thread. "Private Spider reporting for duty, sir," the spider puffed. "Very good," the beetle answered. "No time to waste. We march at once." Soldier Snail was cold, wet, and miserable. Water had got into his shell, and he wanted to go home to his dry flower pot. Holding on to his twig, he wondered if he would ever slither on land again, when he heard Colonel Pincer's booming voice. 1, 2, 3, 4, company, halt! Help! Over here! The snail cried. Hang on in there, we'll have you out of this mess in no time, the beetle yelled. Then he went to gather some sticks. Private Spider tied the Colonel's sticks together with his sticky webbing to make a raft. Then, with the beetle's help, they pushed it into the lake and the spider jumped aboard. As the raft drifted across the water, Colonel Pincer asked, Can you reach him? Yes, sir, the spider answered. I'm in grabbing distance. Heaving Soldier Snail onto his raft, Private Spider threw a line to the beetle and shouted, I've got him! Tug away! Using all his strength, the Colonel pulled them back to dry land. Nurse Florence dabbed the snail dry with a fluffy ball of cotton wool. Oh, you poor thing, she said. It must have been horrible for you in that cold, dirty water. Well, hopefully it's taught him a lesson, the beetle growled. He disobeyed a direct order. What do you have to say for yourself, soldier? Shivering, the snail thought for a moment, then replied, Do I still have to wash my shell, sir? He blushed and felt rather daft.
Come back to Lulu's for more story time.